Hey there, this is Darren LaCroix from Stage Time University. I think it's important that you know some of the cool people who are members and use Stage Time, and they're people who are out there truly making a difference in the world. And I know people know me and Mark and all the coaches, but it's like, yeah, that ain't enough. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kelly Hall. Hey, Kelly Hall, welcome.
Hi, Darren. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm psyched you joined Stage Time. I'm even more psyched to hear more and more about what you're doing in the world, especially to help teens. Oh my gosh. So let's dive right in. So why, first of all, why you? What's your story? Why is this important to Kelly Hall?
Well, of course, I was a teenager. And
thanks for clarifying.
Yes, I didn't just pop out like this. And while I was a teenager, they were pretty difficult times. I was born to a teenage mom, and we're very close today, but at the time, you know, it wasn't always so. And I grew up thinking that I didn't matter. Nothing I did was important. Extremely lonely, no one to talk to. And these are, of course, all stories I told myself, you know, completely false, completely untrue. And so it led me down a dark path. And my junior year, I was pretty close to committing suicide. And I didn't do it. And a friend of mine did. And that's basically what kind of totally changed the whole trajectory of my life. And she was 16, pregnant, too afraid to tell her parents.
Wow.
And then fast forward years later, I become a parent myself, and I was instantly catapulted back to that. I was like, what's going to stop my son from feeling like he can't talk to me, right? So right then and there, I knew that communication it had to be all encompassing, super important. I had to make sure that he knew that he was so unconditionally loved that there wasn't anything he couldn't tell me, and that there wasn't anything he could do that would, make me take any love away for any reason, right? Because that's what you're afraid of. You know, if you're afraid to tell your parents something, it's because that you don't want them to judge you or look down on you or feel ashamed of you or whatever, because they're the most important person in your life, and you don't want to change the way they see you. And so I wanted to make sure that Caton, my son, knew that there was nothing that would ever change the way I saw him. So we talk about a lot of crazy things. He's 11 now, so it's very interesting. And then eventually I became a life coach, and it was a given that it would be for teenagers. I'm a mindset coach. And for me, what shifted in my life was my mindset. I changed that, and everything changed. My whole life changed. I'm a very happy member of society.
And how did that change? How did that change occur, or what helped you with your own change of mindset?
Well, obviously it wasn't overnight. I made the decision to stay here amongst the living, but I still kind of was on that dark path for a while. When I was 19, I was homeless, living in my car. And what changed for me at that time was I ran into a friend of mine from high school. He literally put me over his shoulder and carried me home to mom.
Wow.
And his mom, Pamela, took me in, made me get back in school. She's like, you can stay here, but you're getting back in school. You're getting a job. You're doing this, you know, those types of things. And she was a huge, huge, huge influence on me at that time. And it just started shifting from there. It was slow, and it took some years, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. And for me, when it finally clicked, I thought, my goodness, all the things that are happening in my life now because of that, and because of speaking and the people I'm meeting and all these wonderful opportunities that are happening, it's like this crazy windfall. And it doesn't have to be so late in life. I want that for our teenagers now, because it can happen now, right? And when I go speak in the high schools to the seniors and I ask them who is afraid of graduating, so many of them raise their hands, because there's this crazy unknown out there, and it's very scary. And if I can bring some peace to that is really great for me.
Wow. I love your passion. I love how committed you are to just your cause and helping people. And like, you're the exact person that I want to help, because you're making a difference out there already. So what's like your best advice? What's your foundational advice, Kelly, for either teens or for, say, anyone to start taking a look at their mindset or evaluating their mindset or taking inventory, and then what to do? What's like step one?
Well, it's funny you asked that. When I go speak in the schools and I'm speaking to the teenagers, I do bring up mindset. And what's really interesting is that last year, a lot of the schools I spoke to, those students hadn't even heard of mindset.
Wow. We take it for granted.
Yes. And because they weren't talking about that. They certainly weren't talking about it when we were in school.
You're very kind that we were in the same time zone. Wow. All right. What else can I give you? Go ahead.
It's very, it seems like a very new concept, for you and I that have been focusing on mindset for so many years. It feels like everyone should know about this. Everyone should know that we can decide what to think, and that we are powerful, and that we get to choose our own thoughts, and that we get to do that. We get to have and do and be everything we want. And we're like, well, of course, duh. But it's not like that. Not everybody actually knows that. And my son, who is finishing 5th grade, his teacher talks about mindset. And I was very impressed. And when I heard that, I fell instantly in love with her. But like I said, last year, some of them hadn't even heard the word. Now this year, I'm going and speaking to the high schools, and a few of them have. And then I'm very like, yes, where did you hear about that? Yes, I'm so excited, right? So I feel like it's trickling out there. But they asked me, what can I do next? I'm leaving now. I spoke to you. Now, what can I do next? So they'll follow me on Facebook. They'll watch, or on Instagram, mostly teenagers. They'll watch my videos and things like that. But they ask me, what can I do? And I give them a reading list. There's so much information out there, and videos on YouTube, and just immerse yourself in the culture of mindset, because that's what it is. And once you tap into that, and especially when you meet someone that's all about mindset, it opens your awareness to everything that's out there, and it'll start trickling in, the information that you need, the information you're asking. Ask the universe for the information, and it will definitely come to you. But reading is definitely key. And if you're a student who doesn't want to read extra books, just challenge yourself 20 minutes a day, and listening to, the advice on YouTube and things like that, all where it comes into.
So you're like the cool mom mentor to teens.
Absolutely.
Nice. And so tell us a little bit about like you getting out there and speaking to schools, because to me, that's like the most challenging audience ever. And it sounds like you just get jacked up for them.
Oh, I love it.
Real quick, true story. Mark Brown, I don't know if you know this or not, but Mark Brown spoke 200 times a year for like a decade talking about bullying. And a company sent him out that he worked for, and it was awesome. So I got asked to do like a little thing for my local junior high school over here. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I'm calling up Mark Brown. What are they talking about? How do I connect? And sometimes like watching Mark Brown work with a teen audience, I'm like, he is a superpower. He's got ninja skills most of us don't have. So for you, so I've never seen you speak, but tell us a little bit about like, what's it like? How do these people find out about you? And then what do you do when you get there?
Well, I started out with volunteering for an organization called Youth Motivation Task Force. They put me in front of schools. And then that's how people started finding out about me. And then through that, I hooked up with activities directors for the schools. They're the ones who hire the speakers for the schools. And then that's how that kind of started snowballing. Then they have this thing called Senior Day, where as they're about to graduate, these seniors take a whole day where they're learning, they're taking different groups, almost like coaching in the groups and stuff like that. And then they bring in a public speaker. They bring in a speaker on the Senior Day. And that's where I come in. So they have a lot of different opportunities like that for schools. For me though, when it first started, I started going into a lot of high risk teenage, the teens are at high risk teens schools. And for me in that moment, I felt like the most important thing that they needed was a change in perspective and hope that, this, whatever's going on isn't necessarily has to be their life, So the main message that I bring to them in that moment is that your past and your current circumstances, they don't determine how far you can go, right? Mm-hmm. And I really want them to see that if they can just change their perspective. So a lot of times I'll go in there and be like, thank God we're rich. And they're like, what are you talking about? Oh God, yes, think about it. How many of you have little tiny computers that you carry around in your pockets? And they're like, oh yeah, it's like, poor people don't have little tiny computers that they can carry around in their pockets, but these kids do, especially in this day and age. And I bring up all, comfortable bed. You've all had enough food, enough water, enough shelter, enough love, enough to bring you here today, And even though things aren't perfect, your education is free, right? And the fact that your school is bringing someone like me here, that is really, really great. You're so lucky to have a school that cares so much. And I start out with that. So I get them like you're going, they start thinking about that, and then that opens up to other things that I can say.
And what is, when you speak to kids, sounds like different age groups, how many people usually in front of you?
40 to 50. So far. But when I start doing the senior days, I just got hooked up with these activity directors. So I'm booking for next year and there'll be a whole senior classes.
Wow. And what's your advice? So if somebody's never spoken to youth or wants to speak to youth, what's your advice for them as far as preparing or connecting, talking to kids?
You just have to be real and authentic because they can sense.
They can smell it.
I was just going to say
more so than
a BS word, but yeah, they can definitely sense it a mile away. So if you're not there for them, they know it and they'll tune out, But when I go in there, I care so much and I'm there for them, and I can sense the ones in the rooms that need it the most. And they're the ones that get my eye lock, like, I see you. For me, the most important thing when I was a teenager was the fact that I thought I didn't matter. And then if I disappeared, nobody would miss me. And for them, I want them to know that they matter. They could do big things and I see them,
Well, Kelly Hall, you matter.
Oh, thank you.
Man, in terms of what have you got from Stage Time? So how have we helped you? Like, how do you use the tool?
I absolutely, first of all, when you sent me those initial classes, I was in the competing phase, during, my competition time. And I thought, oh, my speech, this is really great, and then you sent me those and I completely ripped my speech apart, and then I love the Wednesday nights. I haven't been on a while because my son's basketball has been Wednesday nights, but now it's over. So I'll be back to Wednesday nights. But I, sent in my speech. And again, you guys, were able to give me some really, really great, awesome feedback that helped me, turn things around. And then you're, stage time. So of course I took that to heart and I reached out to Toastmasters groups far and wide. I was speaking 3 hours away at 7 a.m, giving my speech. I was, it was very extremely valuable. And I enjoyed it. So I'm going to do it again next year.
All right. Well, hey, every time you're on stage, you're competing, the better you do, the more business you're going to get, the more people you're going to help. Most importantly, I can tell that's important to you. So for everyone watching this, please go check out kellyhallcoaching.com. If you know, and you mostly work with teens, or do you do anything with moms and dads of teens?
I am a one-on-one coach for teens, mindset especially. But I do a few times a year offer a group coaching program for parents of teens that want to take that type of approach. Learning how to speak and communicate in a different manner that teens might be more open to.
Sweet. Any other advice for people out there trying to make a difference that have a passion for their story and their purpose?
Just do it. Just do it and don't be afraid, because a lot of times people have this great idea and this great message and then they let fear stop them. They're afraid of being embarrassed. They're afraid of failing in public. They're afraid of, and man, I failed so many times, but I just keep plugging along. So.
Well, as you know, one of the lines in my program that was divine inspiration, it's not the speech that you give, it's the life that you live. And the speech is just a representation. And Kelly Hall, you are awesome.
Thank you, Darren.
I love the difference you're making. And I want to help get you in front of more audiences, bigger audiences, so they can know you. And man, keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for being part of Stage Time. And if there's any way we can help, please ask.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Thanks for doing what you do.